Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is ITSS Verona, part of the international team. Today we are interviewing for the second time Barat Ali Batoor, a Hazara from Afghanistan who worked as a freelance photographer for multiple organizations and has some incredible pieces of photography that everyone should view. And we're going to be discussing the situation in Afghanistan today, and also about Bharat's opinions and his predictions for the future. Today I'm joined by my colleague Anna Lorenzini.
Hi everyone.
And we'll be conducting the interview today. So Bharat, first question is, could you please describe the situation in Afghanistan for our listeners? What have you heard from your contacts in the country, if any remain?
Thank you very much, John and Anna, for having me in another episode of your show. The situation in Afghanistan is only getting worse. It is not getting any better because they are making their hold stronger, the Taliban, and they are continuing targeting the other ethnic groups and those who do not have the same ideology as them. I know they are trying to portray to the international world that they are much better and they have changed and this and that, but that is completely false, because for the last one or two, couple of weeks, 2 probably or 3 weeks now, they have invaded and they have attacked the Balkhab district of Saripul province, which is Hazara dominated province, and they have more than or around 27,000, according to the UN report, that people have been displaced and they are in the mountains, and many people have been killed. There are reports of old men being beheaded, like newborns were killed, children were killed, even women, and so also and unfortunately those who have been displaced in the mountains, they are not receiving any support from the international community or international aid. So many children have died because of the cold weather in those areas. The weather in those areas are extremely cold at this time as well, at night. So many people have died of that, and also hunger, because they don't have enough food and rations. But in other parts as well, we have been seeing Taliban targeting civilians in Panjshir province, let's say, because they were resisting a bit, but those who resisted, they escaped, but when they attacked the valley, they killed civilians, men, women, and children. Similarly, we hear about abductions of people who were former employees to the government or international allies, and above all, poverty is also one of the big reasons, which is a big concern within Afghanistan. So I have my contacts still in Afghanistan who could not manage to get out, and they are worried about their safety, and they are keeping low profile. I don't know for how long they can do that, but still they're worried. And I do get some news from them, and also we part of this social media where we constantly receive news from my contacts and former colleagues.
Knowing what could have led to a return of the Taliban regime to power from a social and cultural and security point of view, do you think that the humanitarian emergency in Afghanistan could have been managed beforehand? I'm also thinking, for example, of the issue of protecting all of those Afghan citizens who have helped and cooperate with the United States, and in recent years and who are therefore more vulnerable to Taliban retaliation?
I mean, the humanitarian ad or like, I don't know, assistance, how it could be managed in advance is probably, I don't know what could be the mechanism. But because the fall of Afghanistan was all of a sudden and was unpredicted in that way, how it happened. But there is another challenge as well, because like the ad which are going into Afghanistan now, it is not making or reaching to the areas where it is needed, because Taliban is controlling them and like they are distributing most of those things within their own people. So for instance, Balkhab, who is in dire need of the help, they are not receiving any. And like the earthquake which happened in Taliban stronghold, like which they had a very powerful thing, and it belonged to the same people as the Taliban, they are the same people, like, or whatever gone there, like it is there. So which is good, like they should receive support. I'm not saying like the support should not go there, but every support has gone there, while on the other hand, like Balkhab is receiving zero ad. And that is the management as well. Like I don't see like international aid is not going into Afghanistan. It is going there, but it is not like reaching to the people who are affected. Taliban only probably allowing ads or support to those areas where like which belong to their people, not to their oppositions, which they want to eliminate.
And speaking more and more from a social-human point of view, have you noticed the differences in reaction or awareness between people who have experienced both the pre-2001 and post-2001 phase, that it means during the last Taliban regime and the fall of the regime, compared to those who were born or raised after the 2001? I'm referring above all the female world. I'm thinking, for example, of greater access to information, thanks also to greater access to certain technological tools, to which the new generation has had more access than perhaps in comparison with the past, and that therefore may have accentuated their desire to defend and fight for their freedom and rights.
It is not exactly the same, I would say, but it's still the same, because Taliban have not changed their ideology. They have not changed their approach. So they are the same people. If, like I have been saying, like if the Taliban change their ideology, then Taliban dies, because Taliban is the radical conservative movement and ideology, which is like so narrow, I mean, backward thinking and ideology. If like that dies, then probably they would not be able to recruit people on the slogans of like jihad or suicide or like fighting against infidels and this sort of stuff. So it is that ideology. If they change, then they will be weak, or it will end up to, or it will lead to their demise. But we see like they have been very thirsty and hungry for international recognition for their government. That is why they are trying to portray or a bit of a softer image to the world, but still, like we hear news like now with this technology, citizen journalism is still like there are videos being leaked, news are being spreaded that how they are treating women, how they are treating religious minorities, like such as what happened to the Sikh community in Afghanistan. The last few Sikhs as well, like they were under attack and they left. How they are doing, like conducting extrajudicial killings or like punishments in public, and also probably the only very horrible punishment like what we saw in 2000, like post 2001, like women being like killed openly in a football stadium. That is not kind of happening that much in public, but it's still in villages. We don't have a lot of news, so that might be happening in there. And they are like the Taliban in villages are more like ruling the same way as they used to in the 1990s. So in the capital, the picture is a bit softer, but I don't think they have changed. And the media or the new technology is helping a bit that to spread those things. Like in the 1990s, it was hard to get to know what they were doing. Like people could not report. That was the medium of reporting was not as accessible and as easy as it is now. Like everyone has mobile phones and like internet connections. They can send the news out immediately. So, yeah.
I think that's quite interesting what you were saying, Barat, about the presentation of the Taliban now compared to pre-2001. Is this just lip service then, when they are promising that they have changed, that they are a more, so we say, socially friendly version of Taliban? This is just lies, effectively.
Exactly. That is the lie. In order to just gain the international recognition, and for that they have been doing things like we saw, like they have announced that, or they are announced that, they will allow the girls to go to school, but a couple of months have passed, and the school season, like since the school was supposed to open, no schools, and like they are extremely trying to, even if they allow girls, probably they are trying to change the curriculum extremely or maybe completely to make those radical content part of the curriculum. So like even like they can recruit out of these girls now, like in their like army of terrorists. So that is concern as well. So they are trying to manipulate in that way as well, but they haven't so far allowed the girls to go to school.
So they're trying to effectively groom the new generation to continue the Taliban regime in Afghanistan.
I think that is their intention by kind of manipulating the content, like the text, what do you call curriculum in the schools to spread that conservative or radical ideology within the schools there, like both in boys and girls, and they are trying to preach their radical versions of education within the schools, and and the new generation they want to like influence to probably make their movement more stronger.
Anna, any questions?
No.
I want to now take a step back from Afghanistan and look at the perspective of Australia, if that's okay, Barat. We remember the horrific images of last September and August of the evacuations and the aftermath. There was a recent election in Australia. Anthony Albanese became Prime Minister. Could you please give our listeners a bit of commentary or even your predictions about his policies in regard to refugees, not only Afghani, but also from refugees from other parts of the world, because many people are aware of the conditions refugees face in Australia. And do you think these conditions will improve? Will they stay the same? Is the status quo entrenched in Australian politics?
So when the Labour government, which is led by Anthony Albanese, who is the Prime Minister now, when they were running for the election, so the India campaign, they promised a couple of things which were promising for refugees, especially to those who were on temporary protection visas for like around 10,000. And that meant that protection, temporary protection meant, I mean, like they were deprived of their family reunion, some of them, they did not have access to a lot of stuff, maybe health stuff or like social support and other things. So traveling was not an option, or even if it was an option, so it was in a very serious circumstances. Like if there was something emergency, then they had to get permission from the government. So that was the big promise that this government has made, that they will provide or abolish the temporary protection visas and will grant permanent protection to all those who are refugees in Australia. So far, they sound and they seem committed, but we haven't seen like the action yet. It has been a while since the government has taken the charge, and we are still hoping that they will act on it as soon as possible. So unless it is there, like we see it in reality, like we can't say much, but they seem to have more better or a bit better policies for refugees than the previous government. The previous government, for the 10 years, they have done or introduced every like harsh policies possible in order to punish these refugees, and also to deter them like kind of to go back to their countries which are where they are not safe, or like to those like send harsh messages to refugees who are stuck in Indonesia or elsewhere. Yeah, so but this government seems a bit better in terms of policies, and also in terms of expediting the citizenship applications and family reunion visas. So far, it is a bit better.
And can I ask you something? And how the Australian population react to the arrival of refugees from a humanitarian point of view?
It is mixed as anywhere else. So we have like this big cohort of undecided people. Like they can be influenced by the news, by politicians, and we have like strong group of people who are supporter of refugees, and strong group of people who are anti-immigrants and anti-refugees and probably anti-everything. So those who are in the middle, they like each time we see like during elections, like scare campaigns, fear campaigns are run by politicians. Oh, refugees are coming, they're taking your jobs, or they are a threat to the security of the country, they are this and they are that. So that influences or create a lot of uncertainty and fear within the community, and that is where like those strong group like who knows about refugees, have been involved in refugee activities, or refugee advocates, they come, or refugee themselves, they come to try to educate people what is the reality. So that is how it works. But like we have both type of people, welcoming people, and also very people who do not like refugees, and like their policies and politics, or like their version of society is different than the ones who are very welcoming.
And this leads into our next question, because obviously for people who are not aware of Barat's story, it is incredible, because you yourself experienced this as a refugee, effectively coming on a boat across from Indonesia to Australia, and now you're working at the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre. And could you just give us an overview of what it is like being a refugee and now being able to help those coming across?
As a refugee, like, I mean, since I was in Indonesia, I was trying to come to Australia as a refugee, was trying to seek asylum. So I was taking photos, I was taking films, and when my boat trip failed, so then my photos got published, and like there was half-an-hour documentary on my journey on one of the Australia's television channels. So I have been advocating for refugees since then to raise awareness, why people are leaving, what are the circumstances, what risk do they take, what should be done, how governments can help. So but after that as well, so since I got here, so I do a lot of public speaking, I do a lot of like advocacy for refugees to like in different communities, schools, universities, and community groups. Also, I have recently made produced a feature-length documentary film, which have been like I have screened in a couple of places in different states. So there are things that I do, like in terms of raising more awareness, more like educating people about refugees and the like about them, who are they, why do they leave, and their countries, and what support can communities do, what do they need to know, the reality. And also beside that, I work at the Asylum Seeker Resource Center as an organizer, community organizer. So what I do is like I run a program which is like we conduct training programs for like leadership training program for refugee leaders, or like to give them leadership training, and to like those who are entrusted to run movements, to be the leader of the movement of refugee community. So they are like the things that I am involved in. So we can build a strong network to raise more awareness to, and these refugees can speak for themselves, and they can advocate for their communities, for refugees in their own terms, in their own language, in their own thinking. So they should be the leader. No one should decide what they need and what are their problems, because they are the ones who can decide, who knows better about their issues, about their problems, and what needs to be told to the media, to the public, and to the politicians.
And do you think that there is still hope for Afghanistan?
Well, hope should be always there, because without hope, then nothing remains there. I mean, then it is the end. For us, like as a Hazara, like we have been the most persecuted ethnic group in Afghanistan. So we are not suffering since the creation of the Taliban, which is just recent history, but we have been oppressed and and discriminated, and we were subject to genocide and ethnic cleansing since the 1880s, which is over 120 years now, 130 years. So we have been in that situation for that long. We haven't given hope, given up the hope. So we are trying to keep the hope, and we are hopeful that one day there will be justice, there will be, the Hazaras will be equally sharing, and they will have the share to make decisions in the country. So they will be equal citizens like others, and that country will not belong to one particular ethnic group who will have the right to rule only, and everyone else should have the dream to be the president, to be the prime minister, and they should be able to decide for their communities, for their regions, for their areas. And that is the hope that one day this will happen, and the Taliban will not last very long, because they are not created to govern. They are created to make terrors. They were created to terrorize people, to kill people, not to govern. So this is not their job, and they will not last for very long, because people are dying from hunger. People are like, there are many issues in the country that they cannot tackle, and I don't think it will last for very long. And we are hopeful.
Barat, thank you very much. Could you please just tell everyone the name of your feature-length documentary?
It is Batoor, my last name, and A Refugee Journey. Batoor, A Refugee Journey is the name of my film. We have a page for that on Facebook, and also, but I constantly update about the film and its screenings on my social media, my personal social media, which is Barat Ali Batoor, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and TikTok.
We
Yeah.
cannot wait to watch it.
Yeah, hopefully I can bring it to Italy someday.
That would be very great. Barat, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us today, and
thank you very much.
Good luck with all your work.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.